He's purple, and he's a moose, and he's made out of horseshoes, and we're going to build him today in this episode. I'm Jeff, and you're watching Home Built Workshop. Time to fire up the welder. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope you are doing awesome. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun, do a little bit of metalworking, and turn this rusty pile of horseshoes into a cool custom coat rack. This should be a fun one. There's only one thing that might potentially get in our way for the day, and that's, well, there's some nasty weather moving in. I don't know if it's going to rain, I don't know if it's going to snow, but something is definitely lurking on the horizon. I think we've got a couple hours of work before this weather moves in. Let's see how far along we can get. I'm going to be using these old horseshoes that have been sitting around for a long time to build this coat rack. And these have been sitting out in the weather and the elements for some time. They're all rusty and crusty. This is a terrible base to try to weld to. So first, we need to focus on getting these things cleaned up. I've got a wire brush attachment in my angle grinder. I think that's going to work pretty good for cleaning up these old crusty shoes, getting all the rust off there. That way we'll have a nice clean base to start welding to. I'm going to do this outside because this is going to create quite a lot of dust, and I don't need any more dust than we already have here in the workshop. No wonder this brush isn't working any good. There's no wire brushes left. That's what it's supposed to look like. Better swap this out. Alright, now we can keep going. Just a quick safety note when you're using a wire brush like this. In my experience, the bristles don't really wear out. They end up breaking off and flying at you at about 1 billion miles an hour. It's important to wear proper safety gear, including safety glasses, because you don't want one of those bristles sticking you in the eye. While I've got the angle grinder out, I'm going to switch over to a cutoff disc and cut a few of these shoes into sections. I need this curved portion to weld onto some of the shoes. That's what's actually going to make the hook that you'll be able to hang coats on. I can't cut it right in half because it's just too much curve, so I need to sort of cut these into, I guess not quite a third, but I need to take a section out of the center. I use my homemade belt grinder to clean up that cut edge and put a slight bevel on the ends. Well, I've got all the pieces prepared, and I think we're about ready to start welding this up. Just in case you're curious how this is going to work, if you've never seen a project quite like this before, these little sections are going to get welded on to the main horseshoe just like this, and you can see how that's going to create the hook where you can hang your hat, your jacket, or whatever it is you want to hang up. Now this is where we get to have a little bit of fun. There's a ton of different ways that you can arrange these horseshoes and weld them up in different patterns and shapes. But this time around, I'm going to weld these up kind of like this. And if we drop in a couple of washers, tack those on as eyes, it's a moose. These sections will get welded on to these and we'll be done. I think it's going to be cool. And as of right now, it's not raining outside, so I think I'm in good shape to dig the welder out and get this welded up. Now you may be wondering, why are you planning around the weather? Well, really, everything in here is wood, and I just don't feel comfortable trying to do any sort of fabrication like this inside my tiny workshop. So anytime that I have to do any welding, I just do it outside. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it gets the job done. Now let's weld this thing. Well, I didn't get rained out, but I got snowed out. It got really cold and started snowing all of a sudden, so had to quick pack everything up because, well, to me, welding outside in rain and snow just doesn't sound like a good idea. And it's not something that I want to deal with today. So I guess we're going to pick this up when the snow is dried off. I suppose I'll take this opportunity and demonstrate the next step of welding this hook onto the horseshoes. We need to do this in several locations. I'm going to use these right angle magnetic jigs to kind of hold everything in place. They'll just stick down on the horseshoe, hold my hook piece, and allow me to get everything positioned nice and straight. I can turn them and make sure that they're lined up exactly as I need them. And then once I get everything lined up, then I can come in here where I've beveled the edge and just weld everything in place. Once it's held down, I'll remove the magnetic piece and I can weld the other side, and that'll give us our hook. Now that the weather's cleared up and everything's nice and dry, before I weld these hooks in place, I decided to take a flap wheel and clean up some of the welds. I figured it's easier to get to them now without having to work around the hooks. It was a little bit tricky trying to figure out how to hold those washers in place, but I found that I could use a small magnet to hold the washer right where I wanted it while I got it tacked in place. Then I could remove the magnet and finish welding the washer eyes in place. Check him out. He's got eyes. So that wraps up all the welding on our little moose. He's looking pretty cool. This is kind of neat. Now we just need to get a little paint on him and wrap this project up. Since this is all bare metal, I decided to apply a couple of coats of primer first. We'll follow that up with several coats of paint, which of course will shake well before using. And yes, this little horseshoe moose is going to be painted purple by request. That's definitely purple. Wow, that paint cover is really good too. Well, after letting the paint dry overnight, our coat hanger made out of reclaimed horseshoes is complete. Our little purple moose is ready to be delivered. What a fun project, and just one of the many examples of things you can make out of recycled horseshoes. If you don't have access to horseshoes, you can always buy them. They're a little more expensive, of course, than reclaiming, but they're still not all that bad. And you can make some really awesome things. I hope you enjoyed this project. I know I enjoyed putting this little guy together. Really happy with the way he turned out, and it's gonna work awesome. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. That turned out neat. Purple moose.